Hey everyone, this is Emma with the Spirit Keepers coming at you with a new Christmas Eve ghost story time today. Every year I have a Christmas tradition that I do with this channel where I tell a ghost story on Christmas Eve. In England, there used to be an old tradition that on Christmas Eve, people would tell ghost stories to children. So I have decided to continue with that tradition and tell you guys another Christmas Eve ghost story. I do have a playlist for all of my Storytime videos that I'm going to add to the description box below. So if you're really into specifically paranormal story times, I do have two other ones. There's one I did about my first paranormal experience ever, and then there's another one I did last year about a potential paranormal experience that I had specifically in Sydney, Australia on one of their ghost tours there. So if you're interested in hearing more about my personal paranormal experiences, feel free to check out that playlist below. Today I'm going to be talking about a paranormal experience that me as well as a couple of other old friends of mine had while staying in New Orleans, Louisiana. Siobhan has also had a paranormal experience in New Orleans that I was trying to see if we could make time for her to join me for this so she could talk about her own experience. However, her schedule did end up working out, so it's just going to be me today talking about my own personal experience. And this particular story is about some activity that we encountered at the Dauphine Orleans Hotel. I really hope you guys enjoy this. If you believe me, that's awesome. However, if you're more skeptical, then I hope that you at least are able to have fun with this video. So enjoy, and I'm gonna get started. So this ghost story happened back in 2018. I absolutely love New Orleans, and this was from my very first time going. I ended up going with one of my roommates, his name is Josh, and an old friend of mine named Courtney. And we were looking into what hotel to stay in, and I decided that I really wanted us to stay at a haunted hotel. So again, this happened back in 2018. So at the time, Buzzfeed Unsolved was a huge channel and a huge series with Buzzfeed. And they, Shane and Ryan actually do a video at the Dauphine Orleans Hotel. I'm going to put that video in the description as well. If you want to hear some more information about the hotel or see what their experiences were like, check that out below. But I ended up watching that video and I was like, you know what? I want to stay at this hotel. So we ended up booking this hotel. And I remember just being so excited to stay at a haunted place. I'm not going to get into everything, but just to kind of briefly sum up their experiences. The Dauphine Orleans Hotel is a very one of the many very haunted hotels in the French Quarter of New Orleans. So the hotel is supposed to be very haunted. There are very specific hot spots in the hotel that tend to be more haunted than others. A big one is their outdoor courtyard. So they have a courtyard that has a bunch of different mini guest houses and cottages in it, and it also that is supposed to be very haunted. People have seen Civil War soldiers. There is actually a story about a ghost bride that is seen a lot in the courtyard, and one of the most major hot spots in the entire hotel complex is May Bailey's, which they currently use as a bar, but it used to be a jazz bordello. Previously, it was originally a part of New Orleans red light district, which was called Storyville at the time, so there was a lot of gambling, prostitution, and things like that, and that is where a majority of the hauntings at the hotel are supposed to be. That's kind of like the epicenter for it. But I'm not going to go into too many details about the story, just because about the famous stories there, just because I don't feel like they're too relevant to what actually ended up happening with us at the hotel. So once again, just check out Shane and Ryan's video in the link below if you want more information. And anyway, so we ended up booking the hotel, and fast forward to our trip in April of 2018. We end up checking in the lobby, and we learned that our hotel room is in the carriage house, which for those of you who don't know, it's the main red building that people can see from the streets of the Dauphine Orleans. So it actually wasn't in like one of the more haunted areas. So at first I was like, oh, we might like experience something, but it's not gonna be anything too crazy just because we aren't in the most haunted area of the hotel. So we end up going to our room, and I forget the actual room number we were in, but it's on the 3rd floor of the hotel. I can visually see it in my head though. So when you get into the elevator, there's these very like narrow, small elevators just next to the front desk. And when you go into the elevators, you go to the 3rd floor. When the door opens, you walk to the left, and then you take an immediate right. Our hotel room was like one of the first 2 rooms that come up on the right in that first hallway when you take a left off the elevator. So again, this is our first time in New Orleans. We're all super excited, can't wait. So we check in that evening, and then we decide to go to Bourbon Street. So we go to Bourbon Street, and Courtney and I, she ended up buying a few things in the French Quarter, like during our journey on Bourbon Street. So the night goes by, like several hours go by. We're on Bourbon Street, living our best lives.
Yay!
And Courtney and I decide to stop back at the hotel to drop off a couple of things. So we get to the hotel, she drops off one of her bags, and Courtney decides to go use the bathroom. And it's at this point that I notice, I'm gonna put in a photo of what the hotel rooms look like at the Dauphine Orleans Hotel, just to give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about. So the way the room is set up is we did get a 2-bed hotel room. So the way it's set up is there'll be the 2 beds, and then there is a smaller TV that's attached, that's on the wall. And then under that, there is a small cupboard just for like decoration that's right under the TV. When I look over at the TV and I see that the little doors for the cabinets by the TV, one of them had fallen off its hinges and was now like on its side. And the first thing I was thinking of, I was like, oh, like, that's interesting, because we didn't touch the cabinets before we went out. And I thought that maybe, I was like, well, maybe the cabinet was always broken. And maybe like one of the housekeepers like came and just put the cabinet door back on its hinges and, you know, just for setup. And then maybe it just like broke again or something like that. So I did see it, but I didn't think too much of it. So we just ended up putting like the door back on its hinges, and it was great. However, I also noticed that I was feeling like I was being watched and it didn't happen the first time we were in the room. It was specifically the second time we were in there and Courtney was using the bathroom. And at first honestly, that I also didn't think too much of, because I'm gonna be real. Like I said, we were on Bourbon Street. I had a couple of drinks, okay? So like I was a little drunk, I'm not gonna lie. So I thought that maybe like what I was feeling may have just been me like being drunk, just knowing that it was a haunted hotel, and kind of felt strange. So like it was a little weird, and I definitely have been known to like pick up on ghosts that way, but like I just didn't think much of it just due to alcohol. So she ends up coming out of the bathroom, and we end up going back to Bourbon Street, not for too long, but just for a little while, and then the 3 of us all came back to the hotel. So we were sitting in the room just hanging out before we, you know, go to bed. You know, Josh and Courtney brought up the fact that the place was haunted, and we kind of just casually talked about that. I kind of just bring up like the ghost and like start talking to like whatever spirits may have been listening or whatever. So I had said something along the lines of like, if anyone's here, like please make your presence known. And I just kind of said like, we're open to, you know, spirits and the paranormal, so if you want to make your presence known, let us know. Of course, nothing happens right away, right? And like I said, we have been drinking, so it was like a very silly little conversation, like reaching out to ghosts. So we end up going to bed that night, and this is kind of the spot where I stopped having experiences. So like, I just want to make that clear. I only felt things the first night we were there. After that night, so I didn't end up having any other experiences. We were in New Orleans for 5 days, so we ended up spending 4 nights at this hotel. So time goes by. I had like a whole itinerary plan because I was just so excited to come to New Orleans, and it didn't disappoint. It's still one of my favorite places to travel. But anyway, we had this whole list of things we wanted to do, and we were going through the list, all this stuff, you know, having a great time in New Orleans. So we fast forward to day 4. So we wake up on the morning of day 4. It's our last full day in New Orleans, and Courtney kind of stops us in the morning, and she was like, hey, I just wanted to like let you guys know that there has been I have seen a man in our room multiple nights. And I was like, what do you mean you've seen a man in our room? So pretty much what happened, so going back to that first night, I had said what I said. We kind of felt something, but like there was a lot of like different factors going into that, so we kind of just didn't think too much of it. But again, we had 2 beds. Josh had his own bed, and Courtney and I were supposed to be sharing the other bed. I'm not sure why, but Courtney ended up falling asleep like on the floor in our hotel room night 1. And I think she had fallen asleep for like maybe a few hours and then like woke up again, something along those lines. But that very first night when she's lying on the ground, she ended up looking up, and she saw a person at like the edge of Josh's bed, like sitting on the edge of the bed. And initially she thought it was Josh, and she thought that he was getting up to use the bathroom. And then she really took the time to actually look and see what was going on, because like she noticed that that they had been sitting at the edge of the bed for a while. It wasn't like someone getting ready to stand up. It was just kind of someone sitting at the edge of the bed. And she looks over and she realized that the person sitting at the edge of Josh's bed was not Josh, because she saw that Josh was sleeping in the bed behind the person. So I'm gonna have a visual of what the room looks like once more, just to give you guys like an idea. But yeah, I was in one bed, he was in the other. She had fallen on, she was lying on the floor next to like where the TV and the cabinet are, and this guy she saw a man sitting on the bed facing our bed. So it was kind of like he was facing the bed and kind of turned to like look at me in the bed. So I can't even like imagine how horrifying this is. I totally acknowledge that sleep paralysis is a thing. However, the reason I don't think this is necessarily sleep paralysis is Courtney saw what happened. She got up and then got into the bed. So it wasn't like one of those things where like she couldn't move. So that's the first night. And then she sees the man again the 3rd night. So nothing happens the 2nd night. And then the 3rd night she sees this man again in the middle of the night. And the 2nd time she sees him, his back is to the beds and he's facing the cabinet in the TV. You can just kind of like see the side of him, and he's staring at the TV. And so we wake up that 4th morning, and she was like, I just want to let you know, like, that this happened, and it's happened 2 times, and it's the same man. She said that he looks to be like about like a middle-aged man. I mean, I know you guys don't know Courtney, but like she's one of those people who I think she believes in ghosts, but she also has a level of skepticism about it. Courtney is not the kind of person who would just immediately assume that something is paranormal. Like, she definitely like really takes the time to think things through. And like I said, the first night when that happened, she didn't tell us right away because she thought like, well, maybe this could have been something else. Like maybe it was this, maybe it was that. But she ended up telling us after it happened 2 times. This is one of my favorite ghost stories to tell because, like I said, it happened in one of my favorite cities to visit, but I also like the fact that it wasn't just things happening to me. I think it makes this a little bit more credible, and I just think it's such an interesting ghost story. So I'm so glad that I could share this with you guys. The Dauphine Orleans Hotel is an incredible hotel. It's absolutely beautiful. If anyone wants to check it out, even if you're not a ghost hunter or like into the paranormal, it's truly such a beautiful property, and there's such great amenities. Google, you know, the Dauphine Orleans Hotel if you want more information on the famous ghost stories and things like that there, so, because there's so much happening. And on that note, this concludes my ghost story for this Christmas Eve. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, a happy new year. I wish you all the best, and we have a ton of different videos that are going to be coming out in the new year. We end up going to Emily's Bridge, which is a haunted bridge in Vermont. There is a haunted cave in the Lynn, Massachusetts area that I check out that has stories connected to pirates. There's just so much going on, and I can't wait to share that all with the in the new year. So I hope you all have a wonderful new year. Stay safe, and yeah, if you want to hear more, feel free to like, share, and subscribe this. I hope you all have a good one. Take care.